You try to grow them from seed you save, it's not going to work.
What's going on? The plants I bought last year, I saved the seeds. They don't grow right. The plants I grew from seed that I saved the seeds don't grow right. The potatoes I used to buy at the grocery store, I used to plant them. They grew all over. They don't grow right. Even the seed potatoes I grew from big seed companies, and I saved those back. They don't grow right anymore. 10 years ago, I could grow all this. And suddenly, all my seeds, whether they're coming from plants that I grew or plants that I bought, no longer grow. Why? I'm sitting in my tomato garden in my dog kennel, and they're doing pretty good. I'm a little concerned about one, and that's kind of what I want to talk about with you today. Hi, this is Robbie from Southern California. This is a topic on seeds. That's all I'm going to talk about today is seeds. I have been playing around with this on when and how to discuss this with you, and the reason it's difficult for me is I've kind of known about this for many, many years, and then there was a lot of things and issues that came up, and it kind of got bigger and bigger. And then on top of that, we have seed companies that contact us, and they want us, to sponsor them, and we don't sponsor right now anybody. And I want to be able to freely talk about things without feeling like I'm going to hurt a company or say something that is going to upset somebody. So let me get right into this and explain why I'm here. I'm here because for beginner gardeners, I want to make sure that you don't give up gardening. And if you fail at something, which is okay, remember I told you if something grows and it doesn't work, you put it back, it becomes soil. That's the way all of nature works. It's not your fault. The idea is it may have nothing to do with you. So let's do a little history, and I'm going to only touch on these topics. This is not really up for debate. This is just you to understand that you may have to tweak things you do, especially people that are purchasing seeds or buying, let's say, food from the grocery store and collecting the seeds or collecting your own seeds even. This could be detrimental to your plants. You had something happen with a pumpkin?
Yeah, I wanted a Queensland blue or a Jaredar, I think they call them here. And I ordered the seeds, and when I grew them, they were hybrids.
And it's scary. 30 years ago, this is how far back this goes, for certain animals I was working with, I used to sprout sunflower seed. Everything was going fine. Bought a certain type, wonderful, and then one day, I couldn't sprout it anymore. They'd rot. I kept doing it thinking, what am I doing? How did I forget how to sprout seed? It turned out when I went to the company, they coated it with something. I don't want to get into details, but they did something to it. It was a sunflower seed, so nobody could grow it, is what it was. That was the start. Then another time, they used to sell hemp seed, not for what you think, but to grow and to sprout because people were eating that. And what that did was it will sprout, but they will never grow. They'll get a tail on them. They'll start to look like they're going to grow, but they will never get into the green stage at all. These were little things that they were working with. Then there was a very short window where a lot of people are totally unaware of this, that certain people wanted to make it against the law to grow your own food. So you would depend on the grocery store, who's ever supplying you with food. That didn't go anywhere. That quickly fizzled out because it was going to be, once it got out, it was going to be a big discussion everywhere. So that one fizzled out right away. Then, of course, GMO. You know what that is. It's genetically modified with an organism in there so they can do all their different products to put on it to harvest at the right time and all that. And a lot of us don't want GMO'd because of the O. So that usually comes on your seeds and it will tell you not GMO, no GMO, whatever it says. And if it doesn't say, a pretty good chance it is. The other thing they don't have to tell you is GM, genetically modified, whether it's done in a lab or whether it's done breeding. This is the big thing right now. Now, this started very heavily, I'm going to say about 6 to 8 years ago. And I don't mean it didn't start before that, but heavily. The first thing was I saw somebody put up a video of somebody was selling a certain type of squash from another country. I'm going to just touch into all this because you can do your own research, but this is not what this is all about. I'm leading up to you planting and being successful. So you had to buy this certain squash seed from these people that live here in the United States, but they have it shipped in. This squash will grow tremendously. It will grow all over the place and be loaded prolifically with food. You may get 10, 15, 20 squash on it. Amazing plant. So this person that put the video up, and I don't know if it's been pulled or if it's still there, said to him, that's wonderful. We'll be able to collect the seed and grow it. This is what horrified me. And the lady said, no, you can't collect the seed and regrow it. Not in the fashion in which you grew the first set. He said, why? Because it was genetically modified that the first year it will just burst into all kinds of fruit. But the second year it might produce 2 or 3. By the third year it no longer produces. When I heard that, it was horrifying. The idea that this is starting to go into our food. What if it crossbreeds with something we're growing? Then I had a discussion with a group that got together in Australia, and that was about 5, 6 years ago. It was an online discussion, and some of them are well known, and they were talking, old timers and everybody. Are people aware that, let's talk about zucchini, that you cannot save zucchini seeds anymore, whether you bought the plant from the nursery or bought the seeds? And I was totally aware. I'd already known that. What those will grow is an odd looking fruit. Sometimes they'll taste good, sometimes they don't. It's just different. And I jumped right into that discussion and said, I've been trying to warn people on this, yes. And he said, yeah, it's in Australia too. And people are unaware of it. And that's what's really getting to me. So then it's been progressively getting bigger and bigger. Just recently I found out that brassicas have been now, I'm going to use the word, let's use the word designed. I don't want to use anything bad. Designed. So almost every seed packet you buy are from big pharma, big companies, and they have now scientifically, whether it's in a lab or a breeding facility, they have their seeds that they can freely have you buy and grow. But when you grow it the second year, there's 2 things it could be. One is called CMS. You can look it up. And what it is, it's a male sterility. So the plant will grow fine the first year. The second year, it's sterile. You might start getting fruit. You may even get flowers. Nothing is going to pollinate. The big thing that scares me on that is not that you have to buy the seed the following year. But what if you've developed something in your yard that's been doing so great for years and years? You've been collecting your seeds, 20 years you've been passing it down the family. If it cross-pollinates the first year with yours, the next year you collect the seeds and you go to plant and you go, what's going on? They're not growing. The other thing you've got is just hybrids. They don't have to tell you. And this is even in heirloom now. They don't have to tell you. A lot of the companies that are doing seeds are highly protected. And then you've got big seed companies that are so famous that we all run and buy seeds from. And one year they put on their cover a GMO'd tomato. They didn't even know they were selling all their people GMO tomato, and they were horrified. But this is the problem. We have so many plants that are GMO'd. They have male sterility in them, or they have what's called suicide seeds. So in other words, I've been talking to a lot of different people. You save your seeds from last year. Let's say you go to Dollar Tree, or I'm just using that as an example, Walmart, Target, any nursery, and you buy a package of seeds. When you go and you look at them and you go, wow, I've got half my seeds left, I'll just use them next year. And you go and put out your 10 seeds, 1 or 2 may grow, because they've been treated, and they call it suicide seeds, with something. But if you ever got to the company and asked them, it's to protect the seeds from either getting fungus on them or, let's say, insects getting in there and eating them. They come up with all this stuff, and anything with our government that's considered clean to try to protect plants and whatever, they don't have to list it. That includes our food that we're buying from the store. Now, I've had great luck with buying these little mini bells. I plant them, I've got them everywhere growing fantastic. Are they going to be the exact same one? I don't know, but I have collected the seeds, so they haven't tampered too much with that. A lot of you have asked, why do I only grow romaine lettuce? Well, I bought those seeds about 12 years ago, and I bought it from somebody that was growing it. Now, did they buy the seeds? I don't know, but the same one grows exactly the same each year, really good. So if I brought in a seed, let's say I go buy a package of seeds right now and I bring it in, and they hybridize with my lettuce, next time I go to collect the seeds, they may not grow. They'll or grow something totally different. But the next time I collect again for my lettuce, I may get nothing. The seedlings may start to grow and then stop, or they will stop producing seed. I'll go collect the seed and put it all over, like I crush them and put it in there, and they won't grow. So here's the reason I'm here, not because of all this. There is nothing we can do about this. So we have to stay calm and know this is the way everything goes these days. Is it about money? Yeah, it is. It's about the farmers have to go back to the certain seed companies to get seed. You buy, let's say you're making microgreens. I have just found out on that, but again, this is research I did. You do your own. A lot of people have tried to grow those. They were trying to grow different radish microgreens they bought, different broccoli, there was peas, different types they tried. The plants will grow, but they produce really nothing from seeds. So in other words, they're buying the seeds, the farmers, and they have to depend on the people that are supplying them the seeds. This all goes back to business. So it's designed to make sure, instead of having to sue a farmer like they used to do years ago, oh, that farm over the hill is growing our patented seed, but the farmer will say, we didn't grow your seed. Yep, but it pollinated with ours, and now your seed shows DNA from our seed. They don't have to worry about that anymore, because now you got the male sterility in there, and the farmers that are growing the patented seed, most of them, a lot of them, they can't save the seeds. They have to go back to the original grower, or at least the company, because they can be growing it in Idaho, wherever the seeds are being grown, out of the country in South America, and then the seeds come in here, wherever they've had the seeds set up to grow in greenhouses, and then whatever way they do it, and the seeds are collected and it goes to the farmers. The farmers basically are at the mercy of the seed companies. Every year they have to buy new seeds to grow, and some of them are so designed they may have to buy a certain fertilizer to get it to grow. Again, that's a whole different topic on how these seeds are genetically modified or genetically engineered. The point that I want to make here, this is the biggest point. I've got this one that is supposed to be a pear tomato, and I think it was Debbie Keller, one of my subscribers, longtime subscribers, I believe members too, said to me, I've been saving my tomato pears, they're yellows, and she's telling me they're not growing. And I thought, well, mine did. And then I realized after that last year I had about 20 plants come up that were the yellow pear. And I think only 3 of them grew tomatoes. The rest of them just grew leaves. In other words, they may be genetically engineered, whether it's done in a lab, you know, working with the cells of the plant, or whether it was bred that way. I do have wild tomatoes growing around here now for years, and they just keep coming up. They do fantastic. They're already growing tomatoes. Of course, the plants that I bought are growing because they have to buy the seeds. So when it comes to what I'm trying to say, because there's nothing we can do, is if you're a new gardener, you're brand new, you started last year, you grew a ton of food and you saved all your seeds, and now you're messaging me, my tomatoes are starting to grow, my squash are starting to grow, and I saved my seeds. I actually get horrified in the fact that if they're not lucky enough to get that one seed that works, because you may have 100 seeds from a genetically modified plant, and you may have one that will grow and be okay. There are people that are bringing these seeds back. I can talk about that in a second. If you're a new gardener and that's all you set up, and you take care of your plants and they get yay high, and then all of a sudden you're not getting food from them, and you're giving them compost tea. You're even going out and buying fertilizer and they're not growing. It may be the seed source. The original plant was never meant to have the seed collected. It's meant to not grow, not reproduce. Gary had some stuff, he explained it. I'll put that on the very end. He had a lot to say about that one morning we were talking about it. So here's what I want you to do. This is the big thing. I want you to go ahead and plant your own seeds that you collected. But I also want you to either buy some seeds or go buy some plant starts from the nursery. I want you to have a mix and match, kind of like what I have in here. I bought this from the nursery. I grew this seed. This one is a volunteer. Let me double check. Yep, it's a volunteer. It came out of my trough. So it's either a cherry tomato, sun gold tomato, or a hybrid. Now, sun gold, you can't collect the seeds. I mean, you can collect anything you want, but the point is they don't generally grow the same because they're a hybrid tomato. They're a designer seed. So I want you to mix and match this year in the garden. Get a couple, go ahead and put the money out. Get a couple plants on things you like and do both. Now, there's somebody I heard that wanted purple radishes. Now, when you buy the seeds, they grow beautiful purple radishes. When you save those seeds, let's say from one of the plants, and then you go and plant them, 99% of them will be white. They'll be an awful radish. It's not really edible due to taste, but there might be one that made it. One made it past this genetically engineered process, and it came back to be itself. He collects those, he grows that, he actually, from what I understand, he actually eats the radish, but he keeps the top, reroots it, and then he plants it somewhere else, totally enclosed, and he lets it produce the seed. He's bringing back the seed. Kind of like what I've done with my lettuce and my celery. You knew I had the red mixed in with my green. I'm getting rid of the red because I only really like the green. He's bringing back the genetics. He's bringing back the heritage of the original seed. That we can do and that we can work with. Kind of like the wild tomatoes that we've got here. They all grow. You go squeeze the seeds in there and they just take off and grow wild little cherry tomatoes. So again, the big thing I'm talking about here is I don't want you to feel you failed if your plants don't grow right. I want you to do both. This way, if you experience something not growing, you save some of your seeds, they started to grow and then they died back. You could look over and look at the plant that you bought and it's full of tomatoes. You'll be happy and you'll know that's not going to work. I may have to buy my seeds. Try to go with plants that are kind of old-time plants, like a good romaine lettuce. A lot of times you can save those seeds. I have been for years. And once you save them and once you try growing them and they work, don't bring in another type of romaine lettuce. Stick with what you've got. Kind of think how you can bring back some of the seeds. This way you can share with other people. And that's another way. You can go to seed banks that are purposely keeping certain seeds that are pure and doing great that way. And that is another way to bring in seeds. But when you go to the store and you buy the seeds, most of these companies are all the same. You may have 20 names, but it might only be the 3 same companies, and they've all have what they call designer seeds. I actually wrote this down so I wouldn't forget because they've got the GM, not the GMO. They don't have to tell you genetically modified. You've got the male sterility. You've got the hybrids. You've got plain old plants that were bred just to be sterile. You've got genetically engineered, and you've got suicide seeds that have been treated to not survive the next year. Maybe those would grow, and that's why they do that, because let's say it's a certain radish seed or a certain carrot or a certain tomato, and they don't have it genetically engineered yet, so you will not get anything. So they put a certain thing in there to keep the seeds clean. And then this way, when you go to plant them, let's say in 9 months from now, because next spring you're going to start planting them, most of them don't grow. Those may be the seeds to really collect the ones that make it. There's ways of doing it, but again, the big thing I'm talking about here is mix and match your plants until you know where you're going. Some of you have told me you've been saving your seeds for over 10 years. Great, that's what you want. You want to be able to get your own seeds. I've got seeds I've been saving for probably about 10 years, and they're Korean melons, and they grow true. I don't buy them. I have my own that I collected, and when I'm ready to plant them out, I plant them and they grow true. If you go to the store and buy a cantaloupe and you plant them, you're going to get this awful little green fruit, and it will never produce a cantaloupe because they've all been modified to grow one time, so you are dependent on buying more seeds. And same thing with the farmers. You go to these people that are selling all their seeds, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, Etsy, eBay, even on YouTube. They say they've got their different types of seeds, buy their different seeds. It's not coming from their yard. They're buying from these seed sources that are supplying them with the seeds. They're all coming from one place, a lot of these plants. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And those seeds can't be saved. That's why you got to go back the following year and buy again from the same people if you've got people you depend on. There's nothing wrong with that, but as long as you're aware of it, then you'll know what seeds you can save, what seeds you can't save, and maybe make sure you have backup plants growing in your garden. Plants that you bought at the nursery that you like, seeds that you bought at the store that are dated for this year, not last year, because I got some seeds that were dated for last year that will not grow this year at all. I had about 8 packages, would not grow. And then I found out they were suicide seeds. So that's the thing. You go get fresh seeds, check the date on the package, and as long as it says it's good to go for this year, you'll be good to go. I'm going to drop Gary in there, and I just want to say at this point, I hope I've given you some information, not trying to scare you. That's why I didn't want to talk about it, but awareness. All we need to do is be aware. So with that, have a wonderful day. Don't forget to eat what you grow and try to save seeds. And once you get it right, keep saving from the same ones so you will have your very own seeds. Maybe you'll be able to name them after yourself. Here's Gary, what he had to say.
So you know what I'm researching, and you've been researching. So go ahead and tell me what you've written out.
Okay, so there's a couple of methods depending on whatever seed you're talking about. So if you're talking about the seeds not being able to reproduce the same plant, like if you save the seeds and you can't get the same plant the following year, that's called cytoplasmic male sterility, or CTS. And that's the simplest way seed companies can protect their special seeds. Because if you try to grow them from seed you save, it's not going to work.
And that includes heirloom.
That includes heirloom. They're doing that to heirloom now. It has built-in sterility, so it's not, some of the seeds won't even grow. The other one is a chemical coating seed treatments. That's if you want to buy a seed packet and keep it in your house for a year and then try to plant it the second year. They put fungicides and insecticides on the seed, and that protects it the first year. But if you store them and try to plant them the second year, they won't grow because it works away. It's like a slow release.
Purposely done?
Purposely done. These methods ensure gardeners generally return to the seed companies to purchase new seeds every growing season. So they're doing it on purpose. So every year you have to keep buying seeds.
If somebody wanted to look it up, is there a way to look it up?
Yeah, you can look it up. I looked it up by why won't seeds grow the following year? Do they treat seeds to prevent seeds germinating the following year? And that led me down that path. But Joseph Lofthouse, Landrace Seed Stewardship, he's a guy that talks about the cytoplasmic male sterility, and he talks about trying to create landrace versions of seed if people are interested in that. That means growing seeds for your specific garden. So if you keep growing the same seeds year over year, you'll improve what you're growing.